Imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning in Ohio, making yourself a cup of coffee, and knowing that while you slept, your money sent you another paycheck. That's the dream a lot of Americans are chasing right now. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how much you need invested to actually live off dividends. Forever. Living off dividends in America is one of the most realistic paths to financial freedom there is, especially once you understand how the tax code actually treats dividend income. Most people think dividends get taxed like regular income. They don't. There's a special category called qualified dividends, and the tax rate on those is far kinder than your paycheck ever was. If you're a single filer making under about $48,000 a year in taxable income, or a married couple under roughly $96,000, your qualified dividends are taxed at 0%, not a lower rate. 0. The IRS literally lets you collect tens of thousands of dollars in dividend income completely tax-free as long as you stay under that threshold. That's the part nobody tells you about. So let's get to the number that actually matters. How much do you need to live comfortably in America during retirement? According to the Employee Benefit Research Institute and several cost of living studies, a single retiree typically needs around $50,000 a year for a comfortable lifestyle, and a couple needs closer to $75,000. That covers your housing, health care premiums on top of Medicare, a car, groceries, and the occasional trip to see the grandkids. If you want the lean version, a modest retirement runs closer to $35,000 for a single person and $50,000 for a couple. And if you want the comfortable plus lifestyle, traveling a few times a year, dining out without checking the bill twice, you're looking at $90,000 to $100,000. Now here's where it gets interesting. The average dividend yield across the S&P 500 cites at around 1.3 to 1.5% in 2026. That's actually quite low historically. But if you build a portfolio specifically for income, using dividend-focused stocks and ETFs instead of the broad index, you can realistically target a yield between 4 and 6%. Let's use 5% as a sensible, realistic number for someone holding a diversified American dividend portfolio. So let's run the actual math. If you want $50,000 a year in income, you divide that by 5%, and you need $1 million invested. If you want $75,000 a year, you need $1.5 million. If you want $100,000 a year, you need $2 million. And if you want the genuinely comfortable life on $150,000 a year, you're looking at $3 million invested. Here's the part that should excite you. These numbers aren't reserved for doctors and lawyers. The average American who starts early enough and stays consistent can absolutely reach these numbers using ordinary retirement accounts. But hold on, there's a piece most people get wrong. Account structure. Where you hold these dividend stocks matters just as much as which stocks you pick. Inside a Roth IRA, your dividends grow completely tax-free, forever, and you never pay a cent of tax when you withdraw them in retirement. Inside a traditional 401k or IRA, dividends grow tax-deferred, but you'll pay ordinary income tax when you eventually take the money out. And in a regular taxable brokerage account, you get those 0 to 15 to 20% qualified dividend rates we just talked about. That's why a lot of Americans run a 3-account strategy. Maxing out the Roth IRA first for tax-free growth, contributing to the 401k for the employer match, and then building a taxable brokerage account on the side for dividend income they can access before retirement age. No penalties, no waiting until 59 and a half. Now here's the thing. Chasing the highest yield is the single biggest mistake new dividend investors make. If you see a stock paying 11 or 12%, it's almost always a value trap. Either the price has collapsed because the business is struggling, or that dividend is about to get cut. The companies that pay growing dividends decade after decade are the boring ones. Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, ExxonMobil in good years, the big utility companies. There's actually a name for the most reliable of these. They're called the Dividend Kings, companies that have raised their dividend every single year for at least 50 consecutive years. Boring, predictable, and they pay you forever. And forever is the goal here. There's also a smarter way to do this than picking individual stocks, especially when you're just getting started. Dividend-focused ETFs do the heavy lifting for you. SCHD is one of the most popular, giving you exposure to roughly 100 quality dividend-paying companies with a yield around 3.5 to 4%. VYM gives you a broader high-yield slice of the market. JEPI and JEPQ use a covered call strategy to push the yield even higher, often 7 to 9%, though with a bit more complexity. And there's also the classic Dividend Aristocrats ETF NOBL, which only holds companies with at least 25 straight years of dividend growth. For most Americans, a simple 2 ETF combination will outperform the vast majority of individual stock pickers over 20 years, and you'll sleep a lot better at night. It's also worth knowing how these payments actually land in your account. Most dividend ETFs pay monthly or quarterly, while individual stocks typically pay 4 times a year, once every 3 months. That uneven schedule is exactly why a lot of income-focused retirees deliberately mix ETFs and individual stocks together, lining up the payment dates so that money arrives in their account almost every single month, just like a paycheck used to. Now let's talk about the part nobody likes to hear: inflation. If you need $50,000 to live comfortably today, you'll need around $67,000 in 10 years and around $90,000 in 20 years, assuming a typical 3% inflation rate. The reason dividend investing still works long-term is that quality American companies grow their dividends over time, usually faster than inflation itself. The Dividend Kings we just talked about have grown their payouts by roughly 6 to 8% a year on average across decades. That's how a dividend portfolio actually keeps you ahead, instead of slowly falling behind. There's one more piece I want you to hold on to: dividend reinvestment, often called a DRIP. While you're still building your portfolio, instead of taking the cash payouts, you automatically reinvest every dividend back into more shares. This is where the snowball really starts rolling. Your shares pay dividends, those dividends buy more shares, and those new shares pay even more dividends. By the time you flip the switch from working income to living off dividends, your portfolio is producing dramatically more than it ever would have if you'd been spending those payouts along the way. So let's bring it all together. To live off dividends comfortably in America, you're realistically looking at somewhere between $1 million and $2 million invested, depending on the lifestyle you want. You get there by investing consistently into quality dividend stocks and ETFs, using the right account structure to legally minimize your taxes, avoiding high yield traps, and giving compounding the time it needs to do the heavy lifting. If this video helped you understand your own retirement a little better, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really does help more folks like you find this channel, and if you're not subscribed yet, now's a good time. I'll see you in the next one.